The night was quiet inside the colony workshop. Rain fell softly outside, hitting the metal roof and windows with a steady rhythm. The air smelled of oil, iron, and burned wires. A single lamp glowed above the workbench, throwing long shadows across the room. Tools, parts of machines, and broken panels were scattered everywhere. Aaron, the mechanic, worked alone. His sleeves were rolled up, his hands black with grease. He was young but carried himself like someone who had seen too much already. The colony was small, and work was endless, repairing transports, fixing drones, building machines for jobs nobody else wanted. This workshop was his whole world. It was late, and he thought the night would end like any other. But then the sound came. The heavy door creaked open with a low groan. Cold air rushed inside, carrying the smell of wet earth and dust. Aaron turned, wiping his hands on a rag. Two guards stepped in. Their boots clanked against the metal floor. Between them, they dragged someone tall and slender. At first, Aaron thought it was another broken machine. Then he saw the figure more clearly. It was a woman, or at least, it looked like one. Her skin shimmered blue in the workshop light, smooth and flawless like polished stone. Her long silver hair, wet from the rain, clung to her shoulders and back. She was dressed in torn, strange fabric, not human-made, and her mouth was wrapped tightly with bandages, stained dark at the edges. The guards dropped her roughly onto a chair. The metal screeched as it scraped across the floor. She didn't resist. She sat there silently, her glowing eyes staring at Aaron with a strange calmness that made his chest tighten. "Don't get any ideas," one guard growled. His voice was sharp, meant to cut. "This one is not to be trusted." Aaron frowned. "Who is she?" "A liar," the second guard spat. Her tongue was cut for spreading falsehoods. "She fooled her own people. Tried to fool us too. Dangerous." The first guard leaned closer to Aaron, his face lit by the single lamp. "Keep her here for the night. Orders from above. But remember this, she is a deceiver. Do not listen to her, even if she finds a way to make you. She's poison." Aaron looked again at the woman. She didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. Only her glowing eyes stayed locked on him, as if she wanted to tell him something he could not hear. The guards turned and left, slamming the heavy door shut behind them. The sound echoed through the workshop, leaving only silence and the quiet hiss of rain outside. Aaron stood still for a long moment. His heart beat faster than before, though he didn't understand why. He had seen many strange things in his life on the colony, but nothing like this. Finally, he stepped closer. He noticed small details now. The bandages were rough, tied by force, not care. Her wrists carried faint marks, as if bound before. Her skin glowed softly in the dim light, as if light lived inside her. She was clearly not human. But her eyes were what struck him the most. They were golden, shining faintly, filled with something he couldn't name. Pain, yes, but also strength. A silent scream hiding under calm. Aaron tried to speak. His voice came out softer than he expected. "Can you hear me?" She didn't answer, of course. Her bandaged mouth stayed shut, yet her gaze never left his. He sighed and walked around her, studying. "Why bring you here? Why leave you with me?" He muttered, mostly to himself. The workshop felt different now. The shadows seemed longer, the sound of rain louder. He felt watched, not only by her but by something greater, like unseen eyes in the corners of the room. He sat back down at his workbench, pretending to focus on a broken circuit board. But every time he looked up, her golden eyes were waiting. Calm, patient, unblinking. It was unsettling, as if she was speaking through silence. Aaron rubbed his forehead. The guard's words echoed in his mind. Liar, deceiver, poison. But the question stayed. If she was truly a liar, why silence her? Why not let her words prove themselves false? Hours passed. The rain slowed. The lamp flickered, but her presence never faded. She was there, silent as stone, yet more alive than anything else in the room. At one point, Aaron stood and walked to the window, trying to clear his thoughts. He looked out at the colony lights glowing faintly in the distance. A quiet settlement under a dark sky. So small, so fragile in this wide galaxy. Behind him, the chair creaked softly. He froze. Slowly, he turned. The woman hadn't moved much, but her hand now rested on the edge of the table. Her fingers tapped once, twice, 3 times lightly, almost like an accident. But Aaron's ears caught it. He was a mechanic, used to sounds, rhythms, signals. He narrowed his eyes. Was it random, or was it the beginning of something more? The lamp flickered again. Her golden eyes caught the light, shining brighter for a heartbeat. Aaron felt a chill crawl down his spine. He didn't know who she was or what truth she carried. But one thing was certain. This was no ordinary prisoner, and her silence spoke louder than any scream. Aaron could not sleep that night. The rain outside had stopped, but inside the workshop, the silence pressed against him like a heavy weight. He kept pretending to work on his machines, but his hands moved without thought. Every few moments, his eyes drifted back to the strange woman in the chair. She sat there, still as stone, watching him. The bandages around her mouth disturbed him more than he wanted to admit. Whoever had done that had not cared about healing, only about punishment. The cloth was old, stained dark at the edges, tied too tight. He wondered what her voice would have sounded like if she had been allowed to speak. High and clear, low and soft. Would it have carried anger or sorrow? Her golden eyes never left him. They followed him as he moved across the room, as if each step he took mattered. They were not the eyes of a liar. Aaron had seen liars before. Their eyes darted away, their hands trembled, their voices shook. This woman, silent though she was, held his gaze as if she had nothing to hide her still. Doubt gnawed at him. The guard's words echoed again in his mind. A deceiver, a liar, poison. Could he really trust his own instincts against theirs? The colony guards had no reason to invent lies, or so he thought. Yet something felt wrong. Hours dragged by. The lamp above him burned low, throwing softer shadows across the room. Aaron rose from his stool, stretched his stiff arms, and finally walked toward her, up close. She seemed even stranger. Her skin glowed faintly, like moonlight on water. It was not just a trick of the lamp. Her silver hair shimmered, and the faint rise and fall of her chest proved she was alive, not some figure made of glass or stone. Aaron crouched slightly so his eyes met hers at level. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, his voice rough with caution. "And I don't know why they brought you here. But something tells me you're not what they say." The woman tilted her head slightly, the tiniest movement. But her eyes brightened at his words. Aaron felt his heart jump in his chest. He looked down at her hands. Her fingers rested lightly against the edge of the chair. Slowly, very slowly, she tapped once again. A soft click against the metal. Then another. Then another. It was not random. There was rhythm in it. Aaron's mind sparked alive. He leaned closer, listening carefully. Tap, pause, tap, tap, pause. It was clumsy, broken, but it was deliberate. She was trying to speak without a tongue. You're making a pattern," he muttered. His voice trembled slightly as he understood. "Code, you're using code." Her golden eyes widened, confirming his thought. Aaron's breath quickened. He was no soldier, no spy, no linguist. But he was a mechanic. Machines spoke in signals, patterns, and rhythms. If he could read machines, perhaps he could read her too. He grabbed a small tool from his bench, a tiny scanner that made faint beeping noises. When it tested circuits, he turned it on, letting it tick steadily. Then he tapped the rhythm she had made, copying it with the beeps. Her eyes lit up with recognition. She tapped again, more carefully this time, and Aaron followed. Slowly, painfully, a strange new language was born between them. The night stretched on, filled with tapping, silence, and the soft hum of machines. Aaron struggled, sometimes misreading her signals, sometimes confusing her meaning. But little by little, he began to piece it together. Her first message was simple. Not liar. Aaron froze when he caught it. He stared at her, unsure if he had read correctly. But her eyes held steady, demanding belief. The second message came after long effort. Truth stolen. Aaron's throat felt dry. He rubbed his forehead with a greasy hand. Whoever she was, whatever her story, she had risked everything to tell him even this much. If she was lying, she was skilled beyond belief. But her trembling fingers and fierce eyes spoke otherwise. He wanted to ask more. He wanted to demand names, places, reasons. But their code was too weak, too limited. It was like trying to paint a galaxy with only 2 colors. Frustration burned inside him, or still, he could not walk away. Dawn began to touch the colony sky. Pale light slipped through the windows, mixing with the fading lamp. Aaron looked at the alien woman, exhausted, bandaged, but unbroken. He felt something shift inside him, that she was not just a stranger anymore. She was a mystery that demanded answers. The guards had called her poison, but Aaron saw something different. He saw strength in silence, truth hidden in pain, and he knew that if he turned away, he might never discover what her silence was hiding. For the first time, Aaron spoke clearly to her, as if she could hear every word. "I don't know what they did to you. I don't know why they fear your voice, but I'll listen. Whatever you have to say, I'll listen." Her golden eyes softened, and though no sound left her lips, Aaron felt as if she had spoken louder than anyone ever could. The workshop felt different after that night. For Aaron, every sound mattered now. The hiss of steam pipes, the click of old machines, and most of all, the quiet taps of the alien woman's fingers. What once seemed like silence was no longer empty, it was full of meaning, waiting to be understood. By morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the colony washed in pale light. Aaron had barely slept, but he didn't feel tired. His mind was alive with questions. Who was she? Why would anyone silence her so brutally? And what truth was so dangerous it had to be cut from her mouth? She sat quietly where the guards had left her, but her eyes told a different story. They followed him as he moved, calm yet burning with something deeper. Aaron had learned to trust machines because they never lied. Wires sparked or they didn't. Circuits connected or failed. People were harder, people hid things. But her, she was like a living circuit, silent but full of signals, waiting for someone to read them. He placed a small metal sheet on the table between them. Picking up a wrench, he tapped against it, repeating the same simple rhythm they had practiced in the night. Her eyes lit up, and her hand moved forward. Her fingers tapped in reply, slow and careful. The sound echoed in the quiet room, like the start of something bigger. The message was broken, but Aaron pieced it together. Danger comes. His skin prickled. He tapped again, asking, "What danger?" She paused, then tapped back, her rhythm stumbling with difficulty. "Not human. Not lie. Coming." Aaron sat back heavily in his chair. His workshop, once just a place for machines, now felt like the center of something far larger. He whispered to himself, "She's warning me. Warning all of us." The door rattled suddenly, making him jump. It was only the wind this time, but his pulse hammered anyway. If the guards caught them trying to speak, it would be over. He glanced at her. She was steady, waiting for him to decide what to do. "All right," he muttered softly. "I'll help you. But we need better tools than tapping on a chair." He searched the shelves until he found an old diagnostic pad. It wasn't much, just a device for testing signals in broken drones. But it had a simple light screen that flickered when activated. He set it up on the table, then handed her a small probe. "Try this. Tap here. Let the screen show me the rhythm." Easier than the metal sheet. Her golden eyes softened with something like relief. She held the probe carefully, her long fingers adjusting to its weight. Then she tapped, slow at first, letting the green light blink in rhythm. Aaron leaned closer, reading each pulse. The message took minutes to form, but when it was done, he understood enough. "They cut me because I spoke. Truth was not safe. Leaders feared what I knew." Aaron's chest tightened. He tapped back quickly, almost desperate. "What truth?" She hesitated. Her eyes flickered to the window, as if searching for something outside. Then her fingers moved again. "War, hidden plan. Not only my people. Yours to." The words froze him. He remembered the guards' warning, the way they spat the word liar. But if she was telling the truth, if there really was a war coming, then the whole colony could be walking into a trap. Aaron pressed his palms against the table. "If you're right," he whispered, "then they silenced you to keep us blind." The alien woman tapped once, slow and steady. "Yes." The workshop seemed smaller now, its walls pressing in. Aaron felt the weight of her message sink into him. He wanted to deny it, to say she was mistaken, but deep down he knew better. Too many things in the colony had never added up: strange shortages, secret meetings, sudden changes in leadership. He had ignored them before, too busy fixing machines. But now, Her silence connected all the missing pieces. He looked at her again. She was more than a prisoner. She was a warning, a living secret forced into quiet, and he was the only one who could hear her. The sound of boots outside made him snap his head toward the door. Heavy steps, getting closer. The woman tensed, her golden eyes sharp with alarm. Aaron quickly grabbed a cloth and threw it over the diagnostic pad, hiding it beneath spare parts. The door opened. A guard leaned in, his face unreadable. "Still alive?" he asked coldly. Aaron nodded, trying to sound bored. "She hasn't moved." "Quiet as a rock." The guard smirked. "Good. Keep it that way." He glanced at her, then at Aaron. For a moment, Aaron thought he saw suspicion in the man's eyes. But then the guard grunted and shut the door again, leaving the workshop in silence once more. Aaron let out the breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He turned back to the woman. She was watching him, eyes bright with both fear and trust. Slowly, she lifted her hand and tapped again. Time short, Aaron's hands trembled as he picked up the probe. He tapped back, his message simple, but full of a promise. "Then we'll find the truth, together, for the first time." Her golden eyes softened with something close to hope. Aaron worked through the day with his hands on machines, but his mind somewhere else. Every sound of the workshop now carried hidden meaning: the clink of tools, the hum of circuits, and the secret rhythm of her tapping. He couldn't stop thinking about her last message: war, hidden plan. "Not only my people, yours too." The thought haunted him. The colony was small, fragile, living far from Earth on the edge of space. They had no fleets here, no strong armies, just workers, engineers, and guards with more pride than skill. If something greater was coming, the colony would break like glass. He glanced at her often. She sat in silence, but her eyes told stories he couldn't yet read. Sometimes golden light flickered in them like fire, sometimes dimmed with sorrow. He wanted to ask everything: who was coming, when, why her? But their slow tapping language wasn't fast enough. That evening, when the sun dipped and shadows stretched across the workshop, Aaron pulled the diagnostic pad from beneath its cover. He pushed it toward her. "We need more," he whispered. "You have to tell me all of it." "I'll keep listening." She nodded slightly, then began tapping again. The green light blinked with each touch, steady and deliberate. Aaron leaned close, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I served as watcher. I saw what leaders hid. I spoke. They cut me silent." Aaron's chest tightened. He tapped back quickly. "What did you see?" Her reply came slow, broken by pauses. "Ships, not ours. Dark ships, waiting beyond the edge. Leaders struck secret deal. They let them come. Promise of power, promise of rule. Both our peoples at risk." Aaron felt his stomach twist. He had heard whispers before: rumors of missing transports, vanished patrols, sudden shortages of fuel. He had ignored them, telling himself it was colony life, nothing more. But now the puzzle fit. Someone high in command was trading safety for control. He stared at her, his voice barely a whisper. "Why tell me?" She tapped carefully, her fingers trembling with effort. "Because you listen. Others obey. You question." The words hit him hard. He had never thought of himself as special. He was just a mechanic, fixing drones and patching engines while others made decisions. But now, here in this quiet workshop, he was the only one hearing the truth. Suddenly, the outside alarm bell clanged, sharp and metallic. Aaron jumped. The woman stiffened in her chair, her golden eyes flaring with fear. Heavy boots thundered past the workshop outside. Shouts echoed through the colony streets. Aaron rushed to the window and pulled the curtain aside. Guards were running toward the perimeter gates, rifles slung across their backs. A transport roared overhead, engines screaming as it lifted off. Something was happening. Something big. He turned back to her. "Is it them?" he asked in a hushed voice. "The ships." Her hands moved fast, urgent. "Yes, sooner than I thought." Aaron's heart pounded. He wanted to believe this was only a drill, some routine guard movement. But the dread in her eyes told him otherwise. He didn't want to admit it, but he knew deep down she was right. The door rattled. He shoved the diagnostic pad under a pile of parts just as the door opened. A different guard stepped in this time, tall and broad, with a scar cutting across his cheek. His eyes swept the workshop like a predator's. "Mechanic," he barked. "Report." Aaron swallowed hard. She's still here. Still quiet. The guard's eyes narrowed at the woman. He stepped closer, his boots loud on the metal floor. Good. She stays that way. If she tries anything, you'll call us. She hasn't moved, Aaron said quickly. Just sits there. The guard smirked, but his gaze lingered too long. Then he leaned close to Aaron, his voice low. Don't start thinking she's harmless. She fooled better men than you. Aaron forced a nervous smile. I remember when the guard left, slamming the door shut again. Aaron released the breath he was holding. He turned to the woman. Her golden eyes locked onto him, sharp and clear. She tapped with fierce rhythm. Not much time. Must act. Aaron rubbed his face, torn between fear and duty. What could he do? He was just one man, and she was a silenced prisoner. Against secret leaders, against hidden fleets, they were nothing. And yet he remembered her first message, not liar. Truth stolen. He looked at the machines around him, the drones, the old transmitters, the scraps of tech piled high. Maybe they weren't soldiers, but machines had power, and so did truth. I'll help you, Aaron whispered, more to himself than to her. Somehow, I'll help. Her golden eyes softened, a spark of hope breaking through the fear. She tapped once, slow and steady, as if sealing his promise. Outside, the shouts grew louder. The colony's calm had cracked. Something unseen was moving closer. And in that small workshop, among oil and broken machines, a mechanic and a silenced alien woman prepared to stand against it. Aaron barely slept again that night. The alarms had died down. The guards outside had returned to their patrols. But his mind refused to rest. The alien woman's last words echoed inside him. Not much time. Must act. He sat at his workbench, staring at his hands. They were strong hands, used to repairing broken engines, welding metal, connecting wires. But what use were they against betrayal and fleets hidden in the dark? He wasn't a soldier, wasn't a leader. He was just one man in a small workshop. And yet, she believed in him. That thought unsettled him more than anything. The woman hadn't moved since the guards left, but she watched him with the same fierce eyes. She didn't need words. Her gaze was enough. It carried a question, unspoken but sharp as steel. Will you stand with me, or will you turn away? Aaron rubbed his face, sighing hard. You don't make it easy, you know, he muttered. Her bandaged mouth shifted slightly, but no sound came. Only her golden eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the dim light of the lamp. Finally, Aaron stood and walked over to her. He crouched low, so his face was close to hers. I don't know what I can do. I'm just a mechanic. But if you're telling the truth, and I think you are, then I can't stay silent either. Her fingers trembled slightly before she tapped against the chair. Trust enough. Together strong. He nodded slowly. The choice was made, though fear gnawed at his stomach. He couldn't undo it now. He would trust her silence. That night, Aaron cleared the bench and began to work. He pulled out old transmitters, signal boosters, wires, and parts he had saved for years. Most were junk, but he had a plan. If she knew secrets, if she had proof, then maybe they could send a message, something that could not be silenced. She watched his every move, her eyes following each spark, each turn of his wrench. When he faltered, she tapped encouragement, small rhythms that meant, continue. Don't stop. Hours passed. Sweat rolled down Aaron's temples. Grease smeared his arms. The old transmitter began to take shape, its small lights flickering uncertainly. It was weak, barely strong enough to reach beyond the colony walls. But maybe that was all they needed. He showed it to her when the first test signal blinked green. Her golden eyes widened with hope, and for the first time since he had met her, she leaned forward, her body shaking slightly as if life had rushed back into her. She tapped quickly, urgent and clear. We must send truth. They must know. Aaron hesitated. If I turn this on, if anyone catches the signal, they'll know it came from me, from us. They'll shut us down before the message even gets out. She tapped again, firm and steady. Risk needed. Without truth, all lost. Aaron's throat tightened. He had spent his life fixing things, machines, drones, engines. But this was different. This was not about fixing. It was about fighting, in the only way he could. He pressed his hand against the transmitter. All right, we'll send the truth. Before he could begin, A heavy knock thundered against the door. Aaron jumped, almost dropping the device. The woman froze, her golden eyes wide. "Mechanic." A guard's voice boomed. "Open up." Aaron shoved the transmitter under the table and pulled a cloth over it. He opened the door slowly, heart pounding. The scarred guard from before stepped in, eyes cold as stone. He scanned the room, his gaze landing on the woman. She sat perfectly still, her hands folded, her face unreadable. Orders changed. The guard growled. "She's to be moved tomorrow. Higher command will deal with her. You've done your job." Aaron forced himself to stay calm. "Where are they taking her?" The guard smirked. "Not your concern. Be glad you won't see her again." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "Men like you soft, curious you get burned if you care too much. Don't make that mistake." Aaron clenched his fists, fighting the urge to strike the man. Instead, he nodded. Understood. The guard gave one last glare before leaving, slamming the door behind him. Aaron turned back to the woman. Her eyes met his, blazing with urgency. She tapped fast, desperate. "Time ends. Must send now." Aaron's heart raced. Tomorrow she would be gone, and with her, the truth would vanish. He pulled the transmitter back onto the table, his hands shaking but determined. "Then we'll do it tonight," he whispered. She leaned forward as far as her restraints allowed, her golden eyes burning with silent fire. For the first time, Aaron felt her trust fully, like a weight settling between them. No lies, no doubts, only trust and silence. He powered the device, its weak light flickering brighter. Sparks danced along the wires, the signal humming to life. The old machine rattled, protesting, but held together. Aaron looked at her, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "We only get one shot." She tapped once, strong and clear. One shot enough. The workshop filled with the sound of the transmitter's rising hum. Outside, the colony slept, unaware of the storm about to break. Inside, a human mechanic and a silenced alien woman prepared to send a truth that could shake worlds. The transmitter hummed like a living thing, its old circuits glowing faint green. Aaron's hands moved quickly, adjusting wires and dials while sweat rolled down his face. His stomach twisted with fear, but there was no turning back now. Once the signal was sent, the truth would no longer belong only to him and the silent woman. It would belong to everyone who heard it. The alien woman leaned forward, her golden eyes glowing bright in the dim workshop. Her fingers tapped against the table with urgency, her rhythm quick but steady. "Send. Now." "Before they come," Aaron nodded. "Hold on," he muttered, twisting the final connector into place. Sparks jumped. The lights on the transmitter flickered, then steadied. The machine was ready. He switched on the broadcast channel. The screen blinked, waiting for input. "We need proof," Aaron whispered. "Something they can't deny." The woman lifted her hand and tapped furiously, her signals sharp, her eyes burning. Aaron scrambled to keep up, writing her words on the pad beside him. Piece by piece, he shaped her message into human language. She told of the hidden ships beyond the colony, the dark alliance between leaders, the secret deal that traded freedom for power. She told of betrayal, of how both her people and his were marked as pawns in a larger game. Aaron read the words back. His hands trembled. If they hear this, if they believe it, everything changes. Her eyes locked on his, steady and fierce. Truth stronger than lies. He swallowed hard, then pressed the button. The transmitter roared to life, its weak antenna pushing the signal into the night sky. The message spread out across the colony network, carried by fragile waves of static and light. It wasn't loud, it wasn't polished, but it was true. The alien woman closed her eyes, her face softening as if a heavy weight had lifted. For the first time, she looked at peace. The peace lasted only seconds. From outside came the heavy crash of boots. Shouts echoed down the street. Lights flared through the workshop windows. Someone had traced the signal. Aaron's heart pounded. They know. The woman's eyes snapped open. She tapped hard and fast. "Protect truth. Do not stop." Aaron grabbed a wrench from his bench and clenched it in his fist. The transmitter rattled beside him, still humming, still sending her message. He knew they would destroy it the moment they got through the door. He had to buy time. The door slammed open. Guards stormed in, rifles raised, faces twisted with anger. The scarred officer stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "I warned you, mechanic. You played with fire." Aaron stood between them and the transmitter, the wrench heavy in his grip. "She was never a liar," he shouted, his voice breaking. "You silenced her because you were afraid of the truth." The officer sneered. "Truth? You think anyone will believe the words of a broken alien and a lowly mechanic?" Behind Aaron, the transmitter sparked and glowed, carrying her message through the colony's networks. The woman's golden eyes blazed, urging him on without a sound. The first guard lunged forward. Aaron swung the wrench with all his strength, striking the man's rifle aside. Sparks flew as metal clanged against metal. The guard stumbled, but another rushed in, slamming Aaron against the wall. Pain shot through his chest, but he didn't let go of the wrench. The scarred officer stepped closer, raising his weapon toward the transmitter. "End this now." Aaron's heart raced. He knew if the transmitter was destroyed, everything would be lost. He pushed off the wall, tackling the officer with desperate force. They crashed into the workbench, tools scattering across the floor. The alien woman struggled against her restraints, her body twisting, her eyes burning with fury. She slammed her hand against the table over and over, her tapping frantic and sharp. Aaron heard it through the chaos. "Fight. Do not stop." The officer shoved him down, raising his rifle to strike. Aaron swung the wrench upward, smashing it into the weapon with a sharp crack. The rifle clattered away, sliding across the floor. The transmitter sparked violently but held together, its light still pulsing, its signal still alive. "Enough." The officer roared, reaching for his sidearm. Before he could fire, a voice shouted from outside. "Sir, the broadcast, it's already spreading. People are hearing it." The officer froze, his face twisting with rage. Aaron coughed, blood on his lip. But he laughed through the pain. Too late. They know. The woman's golden eyes glowed brighter than ever, filled with fire and triumph. Even bound and silent, her truth had broken free. The officer snarled and raised his weapon at her. "If she's gone, the message dies with her." Aaron's body moved before his mind. He threw himself forward, slamming into the officer with everything he had left. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the small room. The bullet tore into the wall, missing its mark. The two men crashed to the floor, grappling in a storm of fists and fury. The guards shouted, confusion filling the workshop. The transmitter sparked brighter, its dying circuits burning hot as it carried the last of the message outward. Through the chaos, Aaron looked toward her one more time. Her eyes met his, shining with a silent promise. She had trusted him, and he had not failed. The officer pressed down hard, his hand around Aaron's throat, his voice a hiss. "You'll regret this, boy." Aaron gasped, his strength fading. But even as darkness crept at the edges of his vision, he heard the faint hum of the transmitter, still alive, still pushing truth into the stars, and in that moment, he knew whatever happened to him, the lie was broken forever. Smoke filled the workshop, rising from the sparking transmitter. The green light flickered wildly, but it still pulsed, carrying her message into the colony's network. Aaron lay on the floor, chest heaving, his throat burning from the officer's grip. His vision swam, but he forced himself up on trembling arms. He would not stop. Not now. The scarred officer snarled, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. He pulled his sidearm again, his voice sharp with fury. "The broadcast ends here. She dies now." The alien woman remained bound to the chair, but her golden eyes blazed brighter than fire. She tapped against the metal with all her strength, the rhythm harsh and desperate. "Stand. Do not let truth die." Aaron's hand closed around the wrench once more. He staggered to his feet, pain screaming through his body. He wasn't strong, wasn't trained, but he had something the officer didn't. He had her trust, and he had nothing left to lose. The officer raised his gun, aiming straight at her. Aaron hurled the wrench with every ounce of strength left in him. It struck the weapon, knocking it from the officer's hand. The gun clattered across the floor. In that instant, the workshop door burst open again. Colonists flooded in, men and women Aaron recognized from the streets, workers, neighbors, even a few junior guards. They had heard the message. They had come. "What is going on here?" One shouted. The scarred officer turned, his face pale now. He saw their eyes, saw the fear and anger burning in them. His power slipped away in that single moment. She lies. He shouted, desperate. This alien poisoned him. You can't trust her. But the colonists had already heard her truth. They had listened to the broadcast, raw and broken though it was. They had heard about the secret deal, the hidden ships, the betrayal. And they had heard it from someone who had no tongue, yet still found a way to speak. A woman from the crowd stepped forward, her voice sharp. If she was lying, why silence her? Why cut her tongue? Another shouted, why hide her here in the dark? Why keep us blind? The room filled with voices, questions the officer could not answer. His face twisted with rage, but his power was gone. Aaron slumped back against the table, his body aching, but his spirit burning. He looked at the alien woman. She had not moved, but her eyes glowed with something new. Not just sorrow, not just pain, hope. One of the colonists moved to her side, cutting the ropes from her wrists. She stretched her arms slowly, stiff from captivity. She stood tall, silver hair falling around her face, her blue skin glowing faintly in the workshop light. Though her mouth was still bound, though her voice was gone forever, she commanded the room with her presence. Aaron pushed himself upright, standing beside her. His voice was hoarse, but steady. She told the truth. I saw it in her eyes. I heard it in her silence. If we don't believe her, if we don't act now, this colony will fall. The colonists murmured among themselves, anger building like a storm. For the first time, they saw the chains that bound them, not just the ropes around her, but the lies fed to them by those in power. The officer tried to push through, but the colonists blocked him. You'll hang for this. He spat at Aaron. Aaron shook his head. No, you will. The truth is already out. You can't silence it anymore. The crowd surged forward, dragging the officer and his men away. The workshop quieted, leaving only Aaron and the alien woman standing together in the flickering light. He turned to her, breathing hard. They believe you now. They know. Her golden eyes softened, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. She tapped against the table once more, slow and steady. Together, we change future. Aaron felt his chest tighten. He nodded. Together, outside, the colony was alive with noise, people shouting, gathering, demanding answers. The message had spread, and it would not be stopped. Leaders would be forced into the open. The hidden fleets would no longer arrive unnoticed. Aaron looked once more at the broken transmitter, its circuits fried, smoke curling upward. It had given everything to carry her truth. Just like he had, the alien woman stepped closer to him. Though she could not speak, her presence filled the air with unspoken words, gratitude, strength, trust. Aaron realized then that humanity's greatest power was not its machines, nor its weapons. It was the ability to listen, to see truth even in silence. The night outside was no longer silent. It was filled with voices, with courage, with awakening. The colony was no longer blind, and in the heart of it all stood a silent woman and a human mechanic, bound together not by words, but by truth. Her tongue had been severed for lies, but in the end, her silence had spoken louder than any voice.